Hi there, and let's get to it. Today we're looking at the tracker palette, and more specifically, motion tracking windows. And just before we proceed, I'm going to interrupt you from the future to show you what the tracker palette looks like in 12.5, and to assure you that all of the information in the upcoming tracker tutorial recorded in DaVinci Resolve 12 is still relevant and applies to 12.5. There is now an effects mode in the tracker palette that will correspond with the new open effects introduced in the update. And the tracker tool now also gives you the option of switching between cloud and point-based tracking. Both of these will be demonstrated in upcoming videos. Let's go back to listening to Daria of the past. The layout of the palette is pretty simple. You've got your object tracking controls on the left-hand side. You have the ability to indicate what you do and do not want to include in the tracking data. You can switch between clip and frame mode if you want to make frame-by-frame adjustments. And at the bottom will be a graph representing the tracking of the above values. The way we use the tracker is by first laying down a power window. So let's say I want to track my actor's face. I'm going to make a serial node, Alt-S, turn on the ellipse tool, and make it small enough to more or less fit his face. On top of that, when we start tracking, we have the ability to track forwards and backwards, but for simplicity's sake, it's usually recommended to track from the very end or the very beginning. So I'm going to pull the playhead to the very start of the frame and place it on his face there. When I'm ready, I'm going to click Track Forward on the tracker window. And that was really quite good. It followed his movement as his body goes up and down. Now, the ellipse is going beyond his face, and that's okay because the whole thing with laying down power windows to develop a track is that you are just trying to find a portion of the footage that you want to focus on. This does not have to be your final look. I could go back to my power window, and inside of the option I can convert it to a Bezier shape, which means that I've now turned it into a power curve, and I can go in and start making custom adjustments to this shape to fit my actor's profile. Let's look at an example where we're following the movement of the camera instead of an object. So I'm going to go after the tower. I'm going to Alt-S to create a new node, turn on my ellipse window, and surround the tower. And now I can go into tracking, track it forward. This is where the track gets lost, and that makes sense. And then I can go back to this space and track backwards. Now the downside is that as soon as this part of my footage is off screen, it stops being tracked, which leaves the tracker in an awkward position. If I was to use this section of my footage as a target for a qualifier, for example, I want to change the color of the tower, that window is going to stay visible. So I'm just going to apply a very strong grade to that window and show you when I drag back and forth that when it's off screen, I can still see that portion, and that's not good. So I'm going to go up until the point where it stops moving, switch over to frame mode. I'm going to click on the window without moving it to drop off a keyframe, and then go back a little bit until I estimate it should be off screen, and then move it off. And automatically another keyframe has been dropped off, and Resolve will now estimate the movement between the two sections, and it will animate the power window for you as it goes off screen. So that's pretty good. And I can do the same thing for the other end. Once again, make sure you're in frame mode, find the last frame where it's being tracked, click on the window to drop a keyframe, and then move your playhead and then move the window together with it. Now I can reset my grade and focus on the actual look that I wanted to achieve. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time.